Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome back to Podcastage. Today I am back with a review of the brand new Lewitt Ray. If you do want to check this out, it costs about $350. Like always, I'll throw some links in the description down below. Full disclosure, this is a loaner microphone from Lewitt. All of my recording settings will be listed in the doobly-doo as well as the description. And now let's talk about what comes in the box. What a surprise, you are going to get the microphone. You get a shock mount, a 5/8 to 3/8 inch microphone stand adapter, a foam windscreen, a magnetic pop filter, a cable tie, but I do have a bracelet from their old microphone, so I am going to put that on here, a padded storage bag, and a little bit of documentation. I recorded the unboxing on a different day, but I put the bracelet back on for continuity's sake, which I just broke because I disclosed that. But as far as the build quality of this microphone, it feels great. It has an all-metal body as well as a metal mesh grille with very minimal give to it. On the front, you have a display which shows the proximity of a sound source to the microphone. You have a port which shoots a laser out to determine the distance of the sound source to the microphone. On the other side, you have what looks like another port, but it's just a dummy port to maintain symmetry. You have two buttons, one which engages the Aura technology, another which will allow you to mute the microphone. As we go around the mic, there are no other buttons or switches. On the bottom, you have the XLR port, and if you care or not, this microphone is made in China. Then as far as the specs, I'm not going to read them to you, that would be boring, but I will have them listed in the description, and I will also have the graphs up on screen in case you want to pause and take a closer look at any of the information that is up there. Now let's do a brief walkthrough of the Aura technology in this thing. As I already mentioned, there was a laser inside of this thing. It shoots that laser out and uses that to determine the distance between the microphone and the sound source. And then all of the inner workings, all of the magic, all of the gears and whatever, they make adjustments for the proximity effect as well as the level. So here I am about 30 centimeters or 1 foot away from the microphone with Aura on. Now I'm only 3 inches away and the level should be pretty consistent, and you will still hear a bit of that proximity effect, but it's not as exaggerated as it would be without the Aura turned on. And then if I back up about 3 feet away from the microphone, it really brings up the level so I don't have to adjust the gain on the interface. And it also adjusts for the lower frequencies, so it boosts that a bit so it doesn't sound as thin. I also want to mention that the crossover point, for lack of a better term, is 12 inches or about 30 centimeters. So if I were to reach up and disengage Aura, we shouldn't hear any significant change in the tone of the recording or in the level of the recording. Let me go ahead and engage that again. And here is how it sounds at 1 foot or 30 centimeters. A few other notes here. If you are using the microphone really close and then you engage Aura, you are going to notice a bit of a drop in level, so you'll have to adjust for that in the gain on your preamp. Or conversely, if you're further away from the microphone than 1 foot and then you engage Aura, you're going to hear an increase in level. So again, you'd need to adjust for that on your interface. And the last thing that I want to point out is this laser is not a smart laser. It does not differentiate between objects. So if you talk with your hand and your hand gets in between you and the microphone, that is going to engage that technology and adjust the EQ and the level. So you need to be aware of what you're doing with your hands when the Aura technology is engaged, because that can affect the tone and the level of the recording. When we look at the front of the microphone, the left-hand button is going to be the one we use to turn on or off the Aura technology, and once it's engaged, as I move closer or further away, you can see that distance being reflected in the display. The button on the right-hand side of the microphone is an actual physical mute button. Hallelujah! And when Aura is engaged, you can press and hold the mute button to establish a mute by distance. When you do this, the mute light will blink for a little bit, and once it is set, it will turn green. Now, when you go further away from the microphone than that red line, the microphone will mute. When you get closer, the microphone will unmute. For example, I have it set up now, and if If I come back closer to the microphone, now I am unmuted. If I get back in front of the microphone, I am unmuted. Back in front of the microphone, I am unmuted. Then if you want to clear the mute by distance, you just press and hold the mute button again for a few seconds. If everything is set up exactly the way that you want and you don't want anybody messing with it, you can press and hold both of these buttons for a few seconds and it will lock the settings. In order to unlock the settings, again, you will press and hold both buttons for a few seconds. And I also want to point out that if this microphone loses phantom power or you unplug it, then you plug it back in, the settings are saved. It does not lose the settings when the microphone loses power. Okay, Aura is off, and now I am spinning around the Lewitt Ray to 90 degrees to show you the off-axis rejection and coloration. Continuing around to 180 degrees, this is the rear. Continuing around to the second 90-degree angle, there we are, and then rotating and ending at the front of the mic. Now let's see how effective the provided pop filter is. Please bring pizza pronto. Please bring pizza pronto. Please bring pizza pronto. Please provide pizza pronto, pals. For all of the distance tests, I'm going to have Aura engaged, but right now I am right on top of the microphone, and here's how it's sounding. Now I'm about 6 inches away from the mic with it pointed at the corner of my mouth, and here's how it's sounding. Now I'm 1 foot away from the microphone, about 2 feet away from the microphone, and finally about 4 feet away from the microphone. Now I am typing on a keyboard with Gatoron blue switches to see how much of my voice versus how much of the keyboard it picks up. And for the gamers, now I am clickety-clacking on the SAD W and spacebar keys. Now here is how the Ray sounds about 6 inches away from my mouth in a relatively well-treated room with the Aura technology engaged. And now here is how the microphone sounds 6 inches away from my mouth in a UFO while I'm being abducted in a completely untreated room. Now here is a quick demo of the physical mute button, so I will go ahead and engage. I am unmuted now. Let me go ahead and mute. Now I am unmuted, and that is how the mute function is implemented. I also want to see how effective the provided shock mount is, so I'll start by tapping on my desk to see how much of that noise it can reject. And then I will tap on the boom arm. I am also incredibly annoying, so I am going to tap on the microphone to see if there are any kind of resonant frequencies. Now, like I always do, I'm going to do a quick spoken word comparison between the microphone that we're reviewing and a bunch of other microphones that are available, so we can hear how this mic stacks up against the competition and understand where it sits within the microphone market. For all of the palette cleansers, I'm going to have the Aura technology turned off on the Ray, so if you want to hear any of the microphones compared to the Aura technology, go ahead and jump back to this timestamp so you can hear it directly next to it. Before we hear the first microphone, here is what the Ray sounds like without the Aura technology turned on. I am 6 inches off, running the microphone into the Universal Audio X8. Gain is set at 38 decibels, 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. Let's hear the first mic. Starting on the Audio Technica AT2020, I am 6 inches off. My gain is still set at 38 decibels, still recording 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. This mic costs about $100, and here is how it sounds compared to the Ray. Back on the Lewitt Ray for a palette cleanser, here is how it sounds. Aura is off. Let's go to another microphone. Now I am on the little brother to the Lewitt Ray. I am on the LCT440 Pro. 6 inches off. Gain is still set at 38 decibels. Check the lower third to see how much I boost each of these in post. This microphone goes between $100 and $130, I believe. But here is how this sounds compared to the Lewitt Ray. Here is another palette cleanser on the Lewitt Ray. What a shocker, nothing has changed. Let's hear a bunch more mics. Next up, I am on the Neat King Bee version 2. I am still 6 inches off. My gain is still set at 38 dB, 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. This microphone costs about $170, and here's how this sounds compared to the Ray. Let's go ahead and do a whole bunch more. Back on the Lewitt Ray for yet another palate cleanser. We are almost halfway done, but here is how it sounds. Let's hear another microphone. Next up, I am on the Earthworks SR117, which is a handheld condenser. I am 6 inches off. My gain is still set at 38 decibels. I'm using this because this is an incredibly flat microphone, so it functions as a good point of comparison. This goes for about $200, and here's how it sounds compared to the Ray. Alright, this is the Lewitt Ray. Do you know how this sounds yet? Is this burned into your brain yet? Because it's burned into mine. Let's hear the next microphone. Next up, I am on the Rode NT1 5th Gen. I am 6 inches off. My gain is still set at 38 decibels, still recording 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. This microphone goes for about $250, and here is how this sounds compared to the Lewitt Ray. Alright, back on the Lewitt Ray to function as an auditory Q-tip to clear out your ear canals. Here's how it sounds. Let's go to another microphone. Now I am on the Aston Origin, and what a shocker, I am still 6 inches away. My gain is still set at 38 decibels, and I am still recording in 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. This goes for about $250, so the same price as the NT1, and here is how this sounds compared to the Ray. Let's do some more. Hey, I have a palate cleanser to sell you, and it is the Lewitt Ray. I am 6 inches off, gain at 38 decibels. That was so stupid. Let's hear the next microphone. Now I am on the Lewitt LCT440. I am 6 inches off. My gain is still set at 38 decibels. This goes for about $290, so about $60 less than the Ray. If you don't want that Aura technology, but you like the sound of the microphone, the 440 is pretty much the same microphone, so just save yourself the money. But here is how it sounds compared to the Ray. Does it sound the same, or does it sound at all different? Alright, I'm back on the Lewitt Ray. We are getting very near the end. This is another palate cleanser for you, so you can hear how this sounds before we go to the next mic. Next up, I am on the Sennheiser MK4. I am 6 inches off. My gain is still set at 38 decibels, still recording 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. This microphone costs about $350, so the same as the Ray, and here is how this sounds compared to the Lewitt. Let's go back and do 2 more, I think. We have 2 more microphones to go, so this is your penultimate palate cleanser. Here is how the Lewitt Ray sounds. Get a good feel for it. Let's jump to the second to last mic. Now I am on the Austrian Audio OC16, 6 inches off, gain still set at 38 decibels. This mic costs about $400. Fun fact, Austrian Audio and Lewitt were founded by ex-AKG employees, and they're both putting out some of the coolest microphones over the last couple of years. Just a fun fact, very cool. Let's go back to the Ray and do one more comparison. And we have 1 more microphone to go. You all know what it's going to be, so here is your final palate cleanser on the Lewitt Ray. 6 inches off, gain at 38 dB. Let's go to the last microphone right now. I am on the Neumann. Hello, Neumann U87 Ai. I am 6 inches off. Gain is set at 33 decibels. I am on the Cardioid polar pattern. No pad and no filters engaged. This microphone costs about $3,700, so this is not meant to be a fair comparison. This is simply meant to be a control from video to video. This is kind of the baseline. So now you know how I sound. What? That is it for the comparison section. Let me know what you think, and let's go to the music test. Can't you tell it's 1982 by the chords and pedals that I use? I've got all I could ever need right here. Can you tell that I have been addicted to 80s guitar-driven music? Is it extremely obvious? I love the effects, I love the riffs, I love the oddity and weirdness of it. It is just so cool and exciting. That's it. That's all I had to say. Let's go to the conclusion. It is undeniable that I review a ton of microphones, and because I try so many of them out, it can get a little bit repetitive or boring to cover them, and that is why I love that Lewitt is coming out with this new exciting technology. Yes, it's a useful tool. Yes, it's pushing recording technology forward, but from a purely selfish point of view, it just makes it a little bit more of an interesting video for me to make. And isn't that cool? And first up, as far as pros, has to be the Aura tech in this thing. It is just such a new idea that I haven't seen in any other recording technology, and not only is it a cool tool, but it is also a really helpful tool, especially if you move around a lot while you're recording or while you're streaming, because getting a consistent level and tone can be very difficult if you're moving around a lot, and having it be so easy to accomplish that is going to help a lot of people get a better sounding recording or stream. I am also a die-hard mute button fan, so the fact that they have a physical mute button so you can mute yourself in the middle of a meeting or something is just amazing. I also love that all of this processing, all of this tech is handled in the analog realm. That means I don't have to worry about firmware updates. I don't have to worry about security. I don't have to worry about compatibility with a new operating system. It is analog, and that just makes for a better end-user experience. Also, the self-noise on this microphone is incredibly low at 8 dBA. It's not quite as low as the 440 or some of Lewitt's other microphones, but I can't imagine a single individual that would have an issue with an 8 dBA self-noise. And the final pro for me is the accessories. They are all extremely well built, they are extremely well designed, and they are incredibly effective. And then as far as cons, this is more of an FYI, but if you're hanging the microphone upside down, make 100% certain that the microphone is all the way in the mount and it is tightened down all the way, because when I was using it hanging upside down, I hadn't sat it correctly in the mount and it fell out. Luckily, it just ended up hanging from the XLR cable so it didn't hit a hard surface. But if you are using it hanging upside down, make sure you mount it properly in the shock mount and tighten it down really well. And now, what are my overall thoughts and opinions of the Lewitt Ray? As far as the overall sound, just like most Lewitt microphones, I would classify this as a brighter sounding microphone. When the Aura tech is turned off, you can still get quite a bit of heft, especially if you engage that proximity effect. The mids are nice and neutral and clear, and then in the upper frequencies, it is bright, it is open, and it is airy. On the electric guitar, I think this works quite well, and I was able to get some insanely gnarly tones out of it, especially with the Aura tech off. You can get some heft and beef in the low end, that clear and neutral midsection, and then all the top end information. Undistorted guitar, dude, this thing sounds gnarly. I really dug it there. On the acoustic guitar, I just think it sounds fantastic because you're getting body, a neutral midsection, and then a lot of detail and excitement in the treble and air frequencies. For singing vocals, I think this thing sounds awesome. You're getting that detailed and airy upper frequency range, which I think gives the voice a lot of excitement and liveliness. And then with the Aura engaged, you get a really clear bass and low midsection. Finally, for spoken word, this does have a lot of top-end information, and for some voices, I think that may be a bit unflattering, especially if your voice isn't competing with a lot of other sound sources for attention. Full disclosure, I was not expecting to like this microphone on my voice because I do have a harsher and higher pitched sounding voice, but when I listened back to the podcasts I made with this, I found myself enjoying it a bit more than I was expecting to. And to wrap up, would I recommend the Lewitt Ray? Yes, I would, under a couple of conditions. Number one, do you like the sound of the microphone? And number two, are you actually going to use the Aura technology inside of this thing? If you don't care about Aura and you only like the sound of this microphone, the 440 sounds incredibly similar, same capsule inside of it, and it's $60 cheaper, so don't go for the Ray. Just go for the 440 and save a couple of bucks. But if you like the sound of this microphone and you're constantly moving around while you're recording, I think that's who's really going to love this microphone, and I think that's where this thing really shines, because the Aura tech is insanely useful and powerful in terms of getting that consistent recording level and recording tone, which can be really difficult if you're constantly moving in relationship to the microphone. So if that is you, I say go for it, because I can't think of a single deal breaker about this microphone. If you already have the 440, I don't think you really need to upgrade, because the capsules are the same, unless you're really going to get a ton of use out of Aura. And if you don't like the sound of the microphone, then you're obviously not going to buy it either.